Hi everyone, I'm Michael Manrique and I'm one of the Habit Guys. We teach realtors prospecting habits so they finally become top producing agents. And welcome to the Realtor Habits Podcast, where agents don't need more stuff, they need better habits. Before we get into today's episode, are you ready to take your prospecting game to the next level? At the Realtor Habits Podcast, we know that consistent prospecting isn't easy, but it's the secret sauce to building a thriving real estate business. That's why we're giving away our free real estate agent scripts to help you build the habit of prospecting with confidence. These scripts are crafted to help you overcome objections, stay authentic, and make those conversations flow naturally. Whether you're calling FSBOs, expireds, or reaching out to your sphere, these scripts are designed to get results while helping you stay true to yourself. Ready to get your hands on them? Download your free scripts today at habitguys.com/free. Again, that's www.habitguys.com/free, and start building the habit of consistent prospecting, because the listings you want are waiting for you to make the call. If you know anyone that can gain value from this podcast, please do us a huge favor and share it with them. We're here to help as many realtors as possible, and we appreciate your help to do so. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today's episode is called 3 Ways to Turn Your Prospecting Environment into Real Estate Wins. Today's episode is all about signs, not the ones in the yard, but the subtle environmental cues or data points that can unlock big wins in your real estate career. You might not realize it, but your environment shapes your behavior more than you think. It's not just about willpower, it's about creating the right conditions for success. Today, we're diving into how you can recognize, set up, and leverage environmental cues to build consistent habits and close more deals. By the end of this episode, you'll not only be able to identify the cues that trigger positive actions, but also harness them to prospect more effectively, connect with clients authentically, and take your business to the next level. All right, let's start with the science. Environmental cues, or data, as I like to call them, are signals in your surroundings that prompt specific behaviors, like seeing, touching, tasting, smelling. According to a study by Duhigg in The Power of Habit, that's the book he wrote, habits are built on a loop, which the framework he likes to use is a cue, a routine, and a reward. Now, the cue is the catalyst that triggers a specific action. I like to teach this as data, right? So it's the same thing. I just like to break it down simpler, right? So essentially, your senses bring in information, right? The primary sense that determines where our focus goes 90% of the time is our vision, right? So an example might be a notification ping might remind you to check your email. Similarly, having a stack of prospecting scripts on your desk can prompt you to make calls, right? Now, research from Wendy Wood, a leading expert on habits, found that 43% of daily actions are driven by habit. So 43% our decisions are controlled by our habits. Think about that. So not deliberate decision making. That's why setting up the right cues in your environment is critical. They can drive productive actions without requiring constant mental effort. And that's what's so important, right? We want to pull ourselves in a direction, on a path, on a trajectory, right? And to be more specific, ultimately, what we want to do is get ourselves to start connecting with people, to start making calls. So fundamentally, if we set up our environment to pull us instead of pushing, right, and feeling tired and weak and overwhelmed, if we had an environment that pulled us in a certain direction, it makes it easier for us to take action, for us to move forward and see progress and feel better and more confident in what we're doing. So how do we identify and set up these environmental cues? Well, start by paying attention to your current environment. What's already there that nudges you toward action or distraction? So first thing we want to do is, I mentioned already, visual, right? So our vision controls 90% of our focus. So let's place your prospecting call list, okay? So you should have a list of prospects that you're going to call where you could see them every morning, okay? That's going to trigger you to take action on it, right? A study in psychological science shows that visual reminders significantly boost task completion. Next is what we hear, okay? Use alarms or phone chimes as reminders to take small actions like sending a follow-up email, right? One of the things that we like to do and we enforce or like to recommend is to wait to text contacts that are worth texting, either have intent to buy or sell or are potentially going to refer you business after you're done with the entirety of your prospecting effort. Okay, so if you had a reminder that went off, at a specific time, it could be a calendar event, but also some sort of vibration or noise that would also help remind you to take that action. Next, location-based cues or reminders. So designate a specific space for making calls. When you're in that space, your brain associates or begins to associate it with focus and productivity. Now, this is really important because fundamentally, the spaces that you normally work in or attempt to work in have some sort of prior habitual response or behavior associated with it. So if you find yourself trying to prospect on your computer screen, but you normally play video games on it, or you're on YouTube on it, or something that is not aligned with your prospecting effort, don't be surprised if it's hard for you to stay consistent in that environment. All you have to do is go ahead and find a different environment with ideally no habitual, conditioning or like past experience. And then you're starting fresh, allowing you to now consistently build this new habit of prospecting in that area. So here's a practical example from one of my students. So she wanted to build a habit of door knocking. Well, we placed her door knocking schedule on her fridge. So every time she reached for a snack, it reminded her of her goal. Within weeks, she was out knocking doors consistently and her lead pipeline started filling up. All right, now let's talk about applying cues directly to your real estate business. Here are 3 actionable ways to turn your environment into results. Okay, so first, prospecting calls. So you want to set up some sort of cue or reminder by keeping your phone, headset, and a list of leads in one place on your desk. I also encourage you to also put your scripts as well. Schedule your calls at the same time each day, creating a routine. The more consistent the cues, right? The more consistent that environmental trigger is. So what you're seeing, what you're hearing, right? What you're feeling, what you're smelling, the stronger the habit becomes, okay? Next, client follow-ups. So you want to use digital tools like CRMs, reminders, or your phone reminders, okay, to help you remember to follow up. So every notification becomes an opportunity to reconnect with a past client or even nurture a lead. And then lastly, networking events. You want to leave a stack of business cards in your car or bag, right? This visual cue ensures you're always prepared to connect with potential clients when you're out and about. Before we continue, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, RedX. RedX helps agents like you build the habit of consistent prospecting by providing the tools and leads you need to stay ahead. With RedX, you can organize your efforts, focus on what matters, and create a system that drives results. If you're ready to make prospecting a habit, check out RedX today. Go to habitguys.com/RedX to save $150 on your first signup. Now back to the episode. Of course, even the best cues, right, environmental cues, can fail if we don't address barriers. Here are common challenges and how to overcome them. Number 1, distractions. So we want to minimize visual clutter. We talked about this. 90% of where your focus goes is driven by what you see. So you want to reduce the visual clutter in your workspace, in your prospecting environment. Studies show that a tidy environment improves focus. Number 2, forgetting the cue. Okay, so one of the things that we talk about is habit pairing or habit linking, right? So there's 2 different ones. So habit linking would be to link an existing habit, okay, let's say like having coffee, and then right after you prospect, okay? And what this does is it allows you to build an association that drinking coffee automatically leads to making a call. Number 3, resistance to prospecting. This is very common, especially if you don't prospect consistently. So what we want to do here is we want to start small, okay? If a full hour prospecting feels daunting, set a timer for 10 minutes, right? Often starting is the hardest part. One of the things that I really always like to emphasize, the whole point of building a habit is that a habit gets you to start the action. Okay, that's fundamentally what we're trying to do. Once we start exercising, start prospecting, start fill in the blank, we normally start building momentum. What happens is we start feeling better about what we're doing. And typically we want to do it again and again and again because we start changing the belief that we have about that specific action. So fundamentally, starting is the key. Now, your environment is always influencing you. The question is, are you using it to your advantage? This week, I challenge you to identify one cue that can help you build a positive habit in your real estate business. Set it up, test it, and watch how it impacts your actions. Remember, small changes lead to big results. You don't need to overhaul your entire routine. Just start with one intentional cue. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Realtor Habits Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and share it with a fellow agent. And before we go, if you're serious about building the habit of prospecting and want to see results in just 21 days, check out our Habit University program. We've helped countless agents like you develop winning routines that drive success. Visit www.habitguys.com/2025. Again, that's habitguys.com/2025 to learn more. Until next time, keep taking action, and remember, your habits shape your future.